haven't spoke for a good few weeks now, Tomboy. Like, how are you feeling about the start of your season? It started off well with Slobosly and McAllister, but still no Lavia. Half your midfield's gone. No new defenders. Didn't expect anything new in the attack. Pretty average pre-season. Do you feel like Liverpool are ready for the start of the season?
No, but I never thought we would be. This whole Lavia stuff needs to hurry up and sort itself out. I'm fine for the club trying to negotiate. That's fine. Because apparently, even if he was to arrive, now we're not going to play him against Chelsea. Stupid decision, but it is what it is. I'm fine if you're trying to negotiate. Just stop waiting a week between bids. It doesn't take a week to figure out how to put £3 more million on a transfer fee just to get it rejected after 5 minutes anyway. So we clearly quite need a defensive midfielder because going into Chelsea, we're either playing Curtis Jones and God forbid Alexis McAllister's knock that he got yesterday is serious. If it is, we're down to Joel Matip. Joel Matip at DM is a genuine serious consideration going into Chelsea if McAllister's injury is serious. Or Conor Bradley, who spent last year on loan at Bolton, goes in at right back so we can move Trent to DM. Like I'm willing to give the club time because they've done some good things.
Move Trent to where?
We'd move Trent to DM.
They've done it twice in pre-season, bro. Did it twice.
It doesn't really work very well because you'd end up getting one of the most creative players in the Premier League and then telling them to go cover left centre back. It doesn't work.
Well, I hope you try to do that with how we've been playing in pre-season. I pray you try and do that.
It's wild that you're going to pay around £50 million for a 19-year-old and have him as your main midfielder. You've not replaced Ginny Wijnaldum. You've lost the experience of Milner. You've lost the experience of Henderson, and we're talking about Liverpool's midfield is going to be marshalled by a 19-year-old. And I'm not even going to mention that the club that he was at got relegated because that ain't fair because it's not on him. But I think we forget about the standards of and expectations of a club like Southampton to now the standards and the expectations of a club like Liverpool. And they're nowhere near each other. So whatever level of talent this kid is, how is he going to go into Liverpool's midfield and make it anywhere near as what it was before? Because surely you're talking about a team that's challenging for the title, wants to challenge for the title, or wants to get top four. But is that with Romeo Lavia? I don't think it is.
I think he's a very good player.
I wanted to add on to that as well, just to say that, like, right now, it is because, look, as much as I do think Lavia is very talented, very good player, I do think that he will become a top player in the Premier League at one point. But it is becoming a bit of a joke that teams can command such a high price for a player that's, let's just say, he's had one good season in the Premier League. Same as, like, you're looking at players like Conor Gallagher, one good season in the Premier League, and you have to pay 50-odd million for them. And if we're being honest, like Kieran just mentioned, he's a 19-year-old coming into a big Liverpool team that's going to be expected to, if we're all being honest here, going to be challenging on all fronts. We all expect Liverpool to be pushing on to Man City and Arsenal next season, being that team that's going to be in the top four. And then, of course, in the other competitions, expected to challenge. He's now coming from, as you say, Southampton, a relegation side, to now Liverpool, a whole new expectation on him. And when he doesn't perform, he's got no one else to come in and back him up. He's their only CDM. He's the only one of a good level. It's not like you've got another senior player that can just play every now and then. Because if we're being real, keeping Hendo there would have even been a good option because you've got an old senior player.
No, it wouldn't. No.
Fabinho would have been a better option.
I'm not a Liverpool fan, but keeping Hendo or Fabinho, a senior player, regardless of who they were, there to marshal him, that look, when he's not having a good game, they can come in, they can cover for him, and then he's going to need someone to guide him. He hasn't got that now. He's got
just
no
to
one.
add to that as well. This goes back to the point I was making. This was the point I was making earlier, Kieran. What you said there is exactly why we need to go in for Caicedo, bro, because Lavia is our next option. And like you've said, you've got a lot of question marks around him. So for me, it's too big of a drop.
Let's not imagine that Moises Caicedo is that much more experienced than Romeo Lavia.
He's more developed, and he's better.
And I agree with that as well. He's been in the Premier League for one season. We're talking about an 80 to 100 million player.
How experienced Romeo Lavia is. We can't, because the man was a part of a Southampton team that was horrific last season. Moises Caicedo shone in a Brighton team that was really good. We have no guarantees as to how Romeo Lavia would have looked in a team that actually held the ball and was decent attacking wise. Do I think he should be the starting DM for Liverpool Football Club when there's aspirations of a title challenge? No, absolutely not. Because very few teams have success at the top level with a DM who's young. But ultimately, we are in this position because the club is buying for the next 5 years. Romeo Lavia is going to be a really, really good DM. The club and the manager seem to have an idea that Stefan Bajcetic is going to be the perfect competition and a really good DM for him in the future. That is ultimately going to mean next season we are not... I've said this for a number of weeks now. We are not going to challenge for the title next season. The focus for us next season will be on the Europa League, and it will be on securing the top 4 or top 5 or whatever it is to get Champions League the year after. We are going to try and use the opportunities that we're in next season to develop these younger players further along than they would be after a year, and hope that by 24-25, they are at a level where they can be relied upon to be a stalwart in the Liverpool midfield that can challenge for a title. Ultimately, this is an entirely new look Liverpool midfield. We have no basis for how anyone's going to look. My issue with the Lavia saga is how long it has dragged on for. We knew Fabinho was going to leave 3 weeks ago. It's not like we got the offer for Fabinho and then 2 days later he signed. We got the offer for Fabinho. We had a week and a half of silence. Then his dogs were blamed. Then apparently they were transfer banned that no one knew about. Then apparently there was just registration issues that we couldn't figure out. And then 3.5 weeks later, he finally left. In those 3.5 weeks, are you telling me that the club didn't have a contingency plan in place to go, we'll get someone through the door? Like it just screams of
Tom,
naivety.
this is the thing, yeah. You Liverpool fans have been swindled again. I don't see how people have not been talking about this more, because Liverpool are going into the season with no DM. They're going in without any cover at centre back because you've got 3 injury-prone centre backs in Matip.
JJ, they've got Trent. They've got Trent. He's going to be their CDM.
You got Kanate. You got you got Kanate, Matip, and Gomez, all injury-prone. So you need a partner for Van Dijk, and this guy obviously is declining because of his injury anyway. When was the last time you actually had a right back who was a right back? Ever since Trent came along, you're not even giving him flipping cover for that right back position. You're playing Milner there, and I don't know, some random kids at some point. This is what I mean. Liverpool need so many defensive and midfield players, but they don't get spoken about. It doesn't get spoken about, and it's crazy to me, because if any other club was going into a season like this with so many holes not being filled, there'll be literally Sky Sports reports on it every single day. But for some reason, Liverpool and FSG can get away with having this mediocre summer and not be spoken about. It's crazy to me.
And this is exactly why, Tom. This is exactly why
an ownership group able to control a narrative as well as FSG are able to at times. Do you want to know why there isn't being as much of a hysteria being made about this? Because a month and a half ago, Alexis McAllister signed on one of the deals of the summer. That's fantastic. You've been given ample credit for that, and he's looked very good in pre-season. But Alexis McAllister will all of a sudden look a lot worse when he has to spend 38 games covering for Curtis Jones. The worst thing that actually could have happened to us was Curtis Jones looking good at the under-21 Euros at DM alongside Angel Gomez. Should we go sign 5'5" Angel Gomez to anchor our midfield? Like, come on, we need to set standards as a football club.
What is crazy is, I'm not surprised though, because have you seen the new director of football at Liverpool? You guys seen this dude? And the fact that you all expected the truth from this guy is crazy. This guy came in, right? And Liverpool fans didn't believe in him. He's been pocketing that money for himself. They've been Tinder swindled. But it's mad. When you started the summer off, there's 2 early deals. Oh God, they're going to have a Thuram or a Kone. Then it was Lavia. You think they'll get them in pre-season? They'll get that defender in. And I agree, I think it will be spoken about. But Jurgen Klopp, because he's so charismatic and he's got such a brilliant persona, he's won every single trophy possible since he's been there. It's just not as big a talking point as will Arsenal win a trophy or not. Man United are a decade without a Premier League. Chelsea's situation. There's just, because they've won trophies, they're just not spoken about. The craziest thing is, I still think they'll make Champions League football this year. They'll be in the top 5, Liverpool, no doubts in my mind. And there was a comment earlier that says Lavia's ready to start. I'm going to ask a question again, and I'm testing my football knowledge. How many defensive-minded midfielders have you all seen at 18, 19 years of age, good enough of playing 38 games in a title-winning season? How many have ever done that in the history of, forget European football, in the history of Premier League football? Who's had a midfielder of that age and profile that's been able to do that? And the reason I say that is because the only level of success for Liverpool is winning titles. Coming fourth isn't a good season. It's acceptable, but it isn't a good season. I can't think of anyone who's been good enough to do that.
Literally in the Premier League, none. In Europe,
none.
Busquets is it.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
None.
And this is exactly why I'm confused as to why Liverpool aren't moving in for a Paulinho. Do you know what I mean? When I spoke,
because it's going to cost them 80 million.
Yeah, I mean, 50 million. 50 million for Lavia is a bit expensive.
Busquets is a really good example. Sorry, let me just interject. Sorry, Busquets is a really good example, but he was playing in some people's eyes the greatest club team of all time. Liverpool are not that. So yeah, he did it, but he look who he had Xavi and Iniesta around him, Messi up front, and look at the defense that was behind him. With all due respect to this Liverpool team right now, that Barca team was smashing 7-8-0. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, sorry, go on, carry on.
What happened to Verratti? There's players out there. Like I said, a 19-year-old, and it's levels. And it looked like that person who said that Lavia was ready to go in and be a first-team player. Now, it looked like he supported Southampton, and it doesn't surprise me that it's coming from Southampton fans that see him week in, week out. But it's levels. It's levels. A misplaced pass here and a misplaced pass there at Southampton, someone might clean it up. At Liverpool, it's a break and it's a goal, and people are looking around and pointing to the 19-year-old. It doesn't take many bad games or many mistakes for a 19-year-old to lose confidence, and the confidence and swag they had, which propelled them to everyone's screens at Southampton, is completely washed out at Liverpool because the expectations are completely different. Like, for example, Declan Rice is coming to this Arsenal team. He's not as fit as Arsenal players, and he doesn't know the system yet. I'm not expecting him to come into this team right now and be the player that Mikel Arteta wants. However, I think he will be that, or I feel he will be that. But right now, he's not that. And that's Declan Rice we're talking about. Somebody who's played in the Premier League for 5 or 6 seasons. This is Lavia, 1 season at Southampton. Like, no, it's crazy.
I was going to say,
what would have made sense for me? What would have made?
Sorry, guys. Let me just interject again. So Busquets, and I want to use this as an example. So Busquets, who many would regard as maybe the best DM of the last 15, 20 years in football. His first 2 seasons at Barca, let's not forget, and I went and checked. We knew we had Xavi and Iniesta. His first 2 seasons there, he had Yaya Toure and Keita in the midfield with him. The point I'm making is it wasn't 18, 19-year-old Busquets, just no backup, go and run that midfield. Imagine that. You Xavi, Iniesta, Keita, and Yaya Toure is your kind of supporting act. Lavia doesn't have that. He's literally being told, you have got to go and anchor and run a Liverpool midfield to try and win a Premier League at 18, 19 years of age. It's, like I said before, it's impossible because it's never been. I just think
what would have made sense.
It's really hard for Lavia as well. Sorry, go on.
What would have made sense, Tom, is keeping Fabinho. Like, I know he's on this downward spiral, right? But for me, I was saying, like, out of the midfielders to get rid of, I would have got rid of Thiago and I would have got rid of Henderson and kept Fabinho for another season to hand over that responsibility to a Lavia. If you're not going to go in for a player like Fabinho, like Paulinho.
I agree with the decision to sell Fabinho, because the one thing that I've always criticised this club on is the sell to buy, but they don't know when to sell. That's the biggest issue. But with a sell to buy model, it doesn't know when is the right time to sell. Fabinho had a clear physical decline last season. You don't bounce back from physical declines. You can bounce back from poor technical declines because that could be form. But that man was getting outpaced by referees at points last season. I can't have that in my midfield. Getting rid of him for £40 million, which is just shy of what we paid for him 5 years ago. Incredible bit of business. The issue has come with, we had no contingency plan for how to replace him. Romeo Lavia, on an individual level, is a good player with the potential to be one of the best in the Premier League in 3 to 4 years in his position, because he's got all the attributes. But development is such a key thing, and he's not going to develop at the rate we want if he is the senior player in that DM position. If this football club seriously thinks Romeo Lavia and Stefan Bajcetic are an ample DM rotation next season, they're going to be exposed like you wouldn't believe when it comes down to the big moments, because Romeo Lavia, fantastic player. His experience of big moments is a big night out at the Emirates when they drew 3-3 and bottled it in the last minute. Stefan Bajcetic's experience of big moments is getting ran rings round by Luka Modric and Toni Kroos at Anfield and losing 5-2. They're good players, but they need time to develop. And it's not like we have... It'd actually be a bit more acceptable if we had, let's say, McAllister had been here 3 years and Thiago was actually available to play 30 games a season and not 15. If we had two players in front of them who were experienced top players at the level, you could sort of go, you can get away with it. It'll be a little bit ropey at times, but you can get away with it. The issue is we have waited 3 years. And because we've waited 3 years, we are now in a position where we've had to refresh the entire thing. So going into the first game of the season, because shock horror, Thiago is injured, the idealistic idea was to name an entirely new midfield three for the opening day at Stamford Bridge away. Now, I don't personally think Chelsea are as scary as previous years, because I think if we've got problems, they've got big problems, because Enzo Fernandez, who partners him in the midfield, because they don't want Gallagher there. Is it going to be Andre Santos, who's making a Premier League debut? Like, there's question marks about Chelsea. We've got the best of a bad situation on that opening day. But something has to be done quick. Now, ideally.
Well, you know what, Tom? This is where sometimes teams can't do this whole plan for the 5 years, buy a player, is going to cover us for 5-6 years. Sometimes a stopgap thing is needed. You guys need a stopgap. A loan of a player who may be 28, 29.
We've never done. I can name you our last three stopgaps.
Yeah. No,
Ben Davies never played a game of football for us. Ozan Kabak done a month and got dropped on a loan spell. And Arthur Melo was
like that. You look at Casemiro as a prime example, though. Casemiro, when we bought him, everyone was, "Oh my god!" But he can't play for you for a decade. I don't think you can just buy everyone that can give you a decade. You have to mix and match at times. I want to go to some super chats here.